The flyer hit Ethan's chest before he could dodge it. He caught it on reflex, glancing down at glossy paper that shimmered under the neon glow of downtown Seattle. Bold letters screamed across the top, in perfect English, "Seeking human partner, no conditions required." Below that, a photograph. Not human. Definitely not human. She stood maybe 6 feet tall with skin that flickered between violet and deep blue depending on how the light caught it. 4 arms, each ending in delicate 3-fingered hands. Eyes like molten silver, too large and too knowing. Behind her, something that might have been wings or energy fields folded against her back. Ethan looked up. She stood 10 feet away on the corner of Pike and 4th, handing out identical flyers to anyone who passed. Most people veered around her without looking. A few grabbed flyers and tossed them in the trash. One guy took a photo and kept walking. She wore something between a dress and armor. Form-fitting but segmented, the same color-shifting material as her skin. When she moved, it flowed like liquid metal. Their eyes met. Ethan's stomach dropped. Not from fear, from recognition he couldn't explain. She crossed the distance between them in 3 smooth strides that seemed to bypass the actual space. One moment she was at the corner. The next she stood directly before him. "You read it," she said. Her voice carried harmonics, like 3 people speaking in perfect unison. "Yeah," Ethan managed. "This real as your planet's impending classification as a death world." She tilted her head, studying him with those silver eyes. "You don't seem afraid. Should I be? Most humans run, or scream, or call authorities." She gestured at the flyer still in his hand. "You're reading the terms." He was. Small print below her photo-detailed requirements. Partner for what? Exactly. Survival. Mine. She glanced skyward. "Possibly yours as well. My people are coming. They've designated Earth for evaluation. If they determine humans are compatible with Galactic Union standards, first contact proceeds peacefully. If not, Ethan pressed, "They'll observe your extinction from a safe distance." She said it like discussing weather. "I deserted my evaluation ship 3 cycles ago. I've been studying your species independently. My conclusion differs from theirs." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. "Someone called the cops," Ethan said. "Irrelevant. They cannot detain me." She extended one hand, palm up. "But they will complicate things. I need a human willing to help me prove Earth's value before the fleet arrives. You have 4 hours to decide." 4 hours until what? Until they burn your atmosphere, testing your resilience. The sirens were 1 block away now. She pressed something into his hand, small and warm and pulsing with light. "That will find me when you choose. Or don't. Either way, the test begins at dawn." She vanished, not walked away. Vanished. Ethan stood, holding the flyer and the glowing device, as 3 police cars screamed around the corner. He pocketed both and started walking. 4 hours. Ethan made it 2 blocks before his phone exploded with notifications. Every news outlet, every social media platform, every emergency alert system screamed the same thing. Unidentified objects entering Earth's atmosphere. Hundreds of them. Military scrambling. Presidents calling emergency sessions. Panic buying already crashing grocery store websites. He ducked into an alley and pulled out the device she'd given him. It pulsed faster now, warm against his palm. The light inside shifted from blue to amber, to something that hurt to look at directly. When he closed his fist around it, information flooded his mind. Not words, pure understanding. Location, underground, beneath the old Pike Place Market storage tunnels that officially didn't exist anymore. Ethan ran, the streets filled with people moving in opposite directions, some fleeing downtown, others standing on corners filming the sky with their phones. He pushed through crowds, took stairs 3 at a time down into the market, then kept going past the tourist levels into service corridors marked restricted. The device grew hot. He followed its pull through darkness, past locked doors that swung open as he approached, down metal stairs that rang under his boots. She waited in a chamber that predated the market by centuries. Ancient brick walls curved into arches, and in the center sat technology that made his eyes water when he tried to focus on it. Shapes that existed in too many dimensions, surfaces that reflected light that hadn't hit them yet. "You came," she said. Still that triple voice harmony. "You said they'd burn the atmosphere." That a metaphor? No. They'll ignite the upper layers to measure human response to environmental catastrophe. Survival rate projections sit at 42%. Acceptable losses for a death world evaluation. Ethan's hands clenched. 42% means billions dead. Correct. She moved to the impossible machinery, hands dancing across surfaces that rippled like water. "Which is why I'm preventing it. But I need you. Why any human?" "Because the Galactic Union requires native confirmation for intervention protocols. A human must formally request aid, must demonstrate your species understands cooperation across biological barriers." Her silver eyes fixed on him. "Must prove you're worth saving. And if I say yes, I transmit an override to my people's fleet. I claim Earth under protection of the Sanctuary Accords. They'll be forced to withdraw and open diplomatic channels instead of burning you to test your limits." It sounded too easy. Ethan circled the machinery, watching light pulse through conduits that shouldn't exist. "What's the catch? Partnership is binding. By galactic law, I become responsible for humanity's integration into Union space. Your failures become mine. Your wars, your violence, your self-destructive tendencies." She turned to face him fully, all four arms spreading in a gesture he recognized as vulnerability. "If humans prove incompatible after I've vouched for you, my people will execute me alongside your species. That's insane. That's conviction." She stepped closer. "I've watched you for 3 cycles, studied your history, your art, your endless capacity for adaptation. You call your world deadly. Storms that rip continents apart, predators in every ecosystem, diseases that should have ended you 1,000 times over. And yet you thrive." The chamber shook. Dust rained from brick arches. "They're starting atmospheric tests," she said. "Preliminary strikes. You have 90 seconds to decide." Ethan's mind raced. Trust an alien deserter he'd met 20 minutes ago. Bind humanity's fate to her judgment. Risk her life alongside billions. Or let the tests proceed. Let the evaluation run its course. Hope humanity passed on its own. The device in his hand pulsed triple time now, matching his heartbeat. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Names carry power in my culture. Once given, they create obligation. Then I need to know who I'm trusting." Another tremor. Somewhere above, something exploded. "Lyra," she said quietly. "My name is Lyra." Ethan extended his hand. "Ethan. And yeah, I'm saying yes. Save them." Lyra's silver eyes widened. Then all 4 hands moved at once, racing across her machinery. Light exploded from the central column, shooting upward through rock and concrete and steel. "Signal transmitted," she said. "Now we wait." "For what? To see if they accept, or if they kill us both for breaking protocol." The chamber went silent. Even the distant explosion stopped. Then Ethan's phone rang. Every phone in Seattle rang simultaneously. Every screen, every speaker, every device capable of transmitting sound carried the same message in that same triple voice harmony. "Humanity, prepare for integration." Lyra sagged against her machinery. "They accepted. We have 1 week to prove I was right about you." 1 week to prove what exactly? She looked at him with something between hope and terror. "That death worlds breed the strongest allies the galaxy has ever seen. I_spotted, _an_alien, _woman, _handing, _out, _looking, _for, _partner, _flyers, .txt. The message repeated across every screen on Earth for 6 hours straight before cutting to a live feed. Ethan watched from Lyra's underground chamber as ships descended. Not the burning atmospheric tests she'd described. Actual vessels, each one larger than Manhattan, settling into positions above every major city on the planet. "They're positioning observers," Lyra said, reading data streams that appeared in mid-air around her machinery. 7 council members, each representing a different Union faction, They'll judge humanity across multiple criteria over the next week. What criteria? Adaptability, intelligence, emotional regulation, capacity for violence, capacity for peace. She pulled up holographic displays showing military forces mobilizing worldwide. Your governments are responding predictably. Fighter jets scrambled toward the ships, missiles armed, tanks rolled through streets. They're going to attack, Ethan said. Yes, which is test 1. Lyra's hands moved, and suddenly Ethan could hear radio chatter from a dozen different militaries. Orders barked in English, Mandarin, Russian, Arabic, all saying the same thing: hold fire until provoked. Someone wasn't listening. A surface-to-air missile streaked upward from somewhere in Nevada, carving a white trail through blue sky. It impacted a ship's hull and dissolved like sugar in rain. The ship didn't even shimmer. Kinetic weapons are irrelevant to Union shielding, Lyra said. But the attempt will be noted. Noted how? Good or bad. Depends on the observer. Some will see appropriate defensive response. Others will mark you as primitively aggressive. She turned to him. This is why I need you. I can't speak for humanity. Only a human can do that. I'm just some guy who grabbed a flyer. You're the human who said yes when everyone else walked away. That makes you humanity's representative whether you want the job or not. The holographic displays shifted. A new image appeared, transmitted from the lead ship. A being that looked like it was made from crystallized light addressed Earth in flawless English. Humanity. You have been claimed under Sanctuary Accords by Evaluation Officer Lyra of the 7th Fleet. This is irregular. This is unprecedented. Therefore, we invoke trial by integration. Your species will face 7 challenges across 7 days. Success means Union membership. Failure means the being paused. Means what? Ethan demanded, though it couldn't hear him. Lyra answered instead. Means they'll classify Earth as hostile and quarantine it. Permanent blockade. No ships in or out. You'll be isolated until your sun dies or you destroy yourselves, whichever comes first. The crystalline being continued. Your representative will be summoned. Prepare them. The transmission ended. Every phone on Earth received coordinates simultaneously. A location in Geneva. 24 hours to arrive. That's me, Ethan said. That's you. Lyra began shutting down her machinery. We need to move. They'll send retrieval teams to ensure you arrive. Some will want to help. Others will want to stop you. Why would they stop their own representative? Because some governments would rather fail on their own terms than succeed under alien conditions. She pulled something from the machinery, a bracer that looked grown rather than built. This will translate any language, protect you from most conventional weapons, and let me monitor your status. Put it on. Ethan slid it onto his left forearm. It contracted, melding to his skin like living metal. Information flooded his vision, showing him threat assessments, atmospheric readings, and a countdown timer. 23 hours, 47 minutes. What's the first challenge? He asked. Unknown. They'll reveal it when you arrive. But Ethan... Lyra gripped his shoulder with one hand, her touch surprisingly warm. Whatever they ask, remember this. Humans survived ice ages, plagues, predators that made you prey for millions of years. You didn't conquer your world through strength alone. You did it through stubbornness, through refusing to quit even when extinction was certain. You really believe that? I deserted my fleet and risked execution because I believe it. She released him and moved toward the chamber exit. Now we prove it to everyone else. They made it to street level before the ambush hit. Black vehicles surrounded the market entrance. Men in tactical gear, no insignia, no identification. Weapons raised and aimed. Ethan Cole, a voice called through a megaphone. Step away from the alien. You're coming with us. Ethan raised his hand slowly. I'm supposed to be in Geneva in 24 hours. Kind of important. You're not going to Geneva. You're not representing humanity. We are. A shot rang out. The bracer flared. The bullet stopped 3 inches from Ethan's chest and clattered to the pavement. Lyra moved. She crossed 20 feet in a blur, disarming the shooter before he could fire again. 2 more agents opened fire. She deflected their rounds with movements too fast to follow, then slammed them into walls hard enough to crack concrete but not kill. "Non-lethal response noted," she said to the remaining agents. "But interference with integration trials is a violation of galactic law. Stand down or face Union enforcement." They didn't stand down. They called for backup. Ethan heard helicopters approaching. "Time to run," Lyra said, grabbing his hand with two of hers. They ran. I__an_alien_woman_handing_out_looking_for_flyers_no_conditions. Underground in ways that defied physics. Tunnels bent around them. Distances compressed. 1 second they sprinted through old sewer systems. The next they emerged in a subway station 3 miles from where they'd entered. The bracer on Ethan's arm pulsed with each impossible transition, feeding him data he barely understood. "Spatial folding," Lyra said, barely winded. "Your planet's infrastructure makes convenient anchor points, but they're tracking us now." She was right. Ethan heard boots echoing through tunnels behind them. Ahead, more tactical teams poured into the station from street level. They were boxed in. "Up," Lyra said. She grabbed him with all 4 arms and jumped. They crashed through a maintenance grate, then through the floor above that, then through 2 more levels until they landed on actual street level in the middle of rush hour traffic. Cars swerved, people screamed, cameras turned toward them from every direction. "Sorry," Ethan shouted to no one in particular. Lyra's eyes scanned the sky. "There, transport arriving." A ship descended, smaller than the massive observers, but still the size of a city bus. It hovered above the street, scattering vehicles with downdraft that smelled like ozone and something floral. "That's for us?" Ethan asked. "That's for you. Official Union transport to Geneva. Once you're aboard, no human authority can touch you. Treaty law." She pushed him toward the ramp. "Go. What about you?" "I'm not invited. Only the representative board's transport." She pressed something into his free hand, a small crystal that hummed against his palm. "Communication device. I'll guide you through the challenges remotely. Trust no one else. Some council members want humanity to fail." Gunfire erupted from 3 directions. The tactical teams had caught up. Rounds pinged off the ship's hull, sparking but causing no damage. Ethan ran up the ramp. The ship interior was pure white, featureless except for a single seat that molded itself to his body when he sat. The ramp retracted. Through a viewport that appeared in the wall, he watched Lyra face down 24 armed agents alone. She didn't fight them. She simply stood there as they surrounded her, weapons trained, shouting orders. Then the ship lifted, and Seattle dropped away beneath them. Ethan's stomach lurched as they accelerated. The bracer projected a holographic map showing their trajectory. Seattle to Geneva in 40 minutes via suborbital flight path. Numbers scrolled past showing speed, altitude, atmospheric pressure. The crystal Lyra gave him warmed in his hand. Her voice emerged from it. That triple harmony clearer than any phone connection. "Can you hear me?" "Yeah. You okay down there?" "They're attempting to arrest me for violation of about 30 human laws." "It won't stick." "I'm not subject to your jurisdiction." A pause. "Ethan, listen carefully. The first challenge will be simple. They'll present you with a moral problem with no correct answer. Every choice carries consequences. Don't overthink it. Trust your instincts." "What kind of moral problem?" "If I knew specifics, I'd tell you. But the challenges adapt to the species being tested. They'll probe humanity's weaknesses, your tendency toward tribal violence, your environmental destruction, your inability to cooperate on global scales, the ship-broke atmosphere, and..." Stars appeared in the viewport, brighter than Ethan had ever seen them. Below, Earth curved in blues and greens and whites, impossibly fragile looking from this height. "It's beautiful," he said quietly. "It is. And it's more dangerous than 90% of known worlds. Your oceans generate storms that would shred most civilizations. Your tectonic activity causes regular catastrophes. Your sun's radiation would be fatal to half the Union species." Lyra's voice carried something like pride. "And yet you built cities. You created art. You reached for the stars with chemical rockets and pure determination." The ship began. Geneva appeared below. Lake Lehman glittering in afternoon sun. The massive observer ships hung above the city like silent moons. "I'm landing soon," Ethan said. "I know. One more thing." Lyra's voice turned serious. "There will be other humans there. Other representatives chosen by their governments. They'll try to undermine you. They'll claim you're not legitimate. Don't engage. You were chosen because you said yes when it mattered. That's all the legitimacy you need." The ship touched down in an empty plaza near the Palais des Nations. Through the V-port, Ethan saw crowds held back by barriers, news crews, protesters with signs in a dozen languages, some supporting first contact, others demanding the aliens leave. And there, waiting at the base of the ship's ramp, stood 5 humans in expensive suits flanked by security details. "The welcoming committee," Ethan muttered. "Remember," Lyra said. "Trust your instincts. I'll be watching." The ramp extended. Ethan stood, checked the bracer one last time, pocketed the crystal and walked down to meet them. The tallest of the 5 stepped forward, hand extended. "Ethan Cole. I'm Ambassador Victoria Kane, appointed by the United Nations Security Council as official representative for—" "No," Ethan said simply. Kane's smile froze. "Excuse me? I'm the representative. Lyra claimed Earth. She chose me. That's how this works." "That's how an alien deserter says it works," Kane replied. Smile gone now. "The legitimate governments of Earth have selected proper diplomatic personnel to handle integration trials. People with experience, training, authority. Do any of you have one of these?" Ethan held up his bracer. Silence. "Didn't think so." He walked past them toward the Palais entrance. Kane's security moved to block him. The bracer flared. They stumbled back like they'd hit an invisible wall. "Union law," Ethan called over his shoulder. "Interference with appointed representatives is prohibited. You want to help? Great, but I'm the one going in there." Inside, the hallways had been transformed. Human architecture blended with alien technology. Walls covered in holographic displays showing data streams in languages that made his eyes hurt. Beings from a dozen species moved through corridors, some humanoid, others radically different. One looked like animated water. Another resembled a geometric shape that kept changing its number of sides. They all stopped to stare at him. The human, the Death Worlder, the primitive. Ethan kept walking. At the end of the corridor, massive doors opened into a chamber that shouldn't fit inside the building. It stretched hundreds of feet in every direction, lit by sources that cast no shadows. 7 platforms ringed the space, each holding a different being. The crystalline entity from the transmission sat on the central platform. "Ethan Cole," it said, "representative of humanity, step forward and face your first trial." Ethan stepped forward. The floor beneath him lit up, projecting an image that made his blood run cold. 2 cities. One showed New York, the other showed Mumbai. Both were burning. The other will fall. This is your first test. I_spotted _an_alien _woman handing _out _looking _for _at _all deathworld.txt. Ethan stared at the burning cities, his mind racing through calculations he had no right to make. Population density, infrastructure, strategic importance. Every metric felt like weighing souls on a scale. "No," he said, the crystalline being tilted its light form. "You refuse to choose?" "I refuse the premise." Ethan stepped closer to the projection, studying the flames. "This isn't real. You're not actually burning 2 cities right now. This is a simulation, a thought experiment. The scenario is hypothetical, the being acknowledged, but your choice reveals truth about human values. Then my choice is neither." Ethan crossed his arms. "If this were real, I wouldn't pick which city dies. I'd find a third option. That's what humans do." Murmurs rippled through the observers. One of them, a creature covered in crystalline fur, leaned forward. "There is no third option. The parameters are fixed. We've done it before." Ethan pulled up his bracer, accessing history files Lyra had loaded into it. Holographic displays appeared showing Apollo 13, the Chilean mine rescue, the Thailand cave extraction. Impossible situations, fixed parameters, people who should have died, and humans found ways to save them anyway. The crystalline being's light pulsed. "You claim you would save both cities? I claim I'd try." And I wouldn't waste time philosophizing about which strangers deserve death less. I'd start solving the actual problem. Interesting. Another observer spoke, this one resembling a mass of tentacles around a central eye, but naive. Resources are finite. Choices must be made. Yeah, choices like whether we give up before we start. Ethan felt heat rising in his chest. You want to test human values? Here they are. We don't accept no-win scenarios. We fight until we find a win or die trying. That's not primitive. That's survival instinct from a world that's been trying to kill us since we climbed out of the oceans. The crystal Lyra gave him warmed in his pocket. Her voice whispered for his ears only. Good. Keep pushing. The crystalline being stood. Very well. We adjust parameters. Both cities burn. You have resources to save 10,000 people total. How do you choose which 10,000? I don't. Ethan's jaw set. I evacuate as many as possible from both cities simultaneously. Split resources evenly. Save 5,000 from each if that's all time allows. At least then both cities have hope. Both populations have survivors. Both cultures continue. Inefficient, the tentacled observer said. You could save more by focusing all resources on one location. Maybe, but you'd guarantee the death of everyone in the other city. That's not a choice humans make when we can avoid it. Ethan pointed at the projection. We've had disasters hit multiple places at once. Earthquakes, tsunamis, pandemics. And every time we split our response teams. We send aid to everyone who needs it, even when it means spreading ourselves thin. Because abandoning people isn't efficiency, it's cruelty. Silence filled the chamber. Then the crystalline being gestured. The burning cities vanished. First trial complete. Answer recorded. It settled back onto its platform. Unexpected reasoning. Inefficient, but principled. The council will deliberate. The platforms began to rotate. Observers conferring in languages that bypassed Ethan's ears entirely. He felt rather than heard their debate. Pressure changes in the air. Shifts in light and gravity. The bracer vibrated. Text appeared on his arm in glowing script. Trial 2 begins in 60 seconds. Prepare for environmental challenge. Lyra's voice came through the crystal. You did well. They expected you to make a utilitarian choice or freeze up entirely. You gave them something else. Did I pass? Unclear. But you surprised them. That matters. Her voice tightened. Next challenge will be physical. They're going to test human durability. Don't try to prove you're invincible. Prove you're adaptable. The chamber shifted. Walls retracted. The space opened into something vast, an arena that stretched into impossible distances. The temperature dropped 30 degrees in 5 seconds. Ethan's breath misted. Environmental challenge initiating, the crystalline being announced. Human standard temperature range is narrow. We will test your species' adaptation capabilities across extreme conditions. The temperature kept dropping. Ethan's fingers went numb. Ice formed on the bracer. He started shivering. Hard, uncontrollable tremors that made his teeth chatter. Current temperature -40 Celsius, the being said. Most civilized species would enter hibernation or perish at this threshold. Humans? Ethan forced his jaw to work. We live in these temperatures. Antarctica, Siberia, northern Canada. We build cities in -40 and colder, with technology, with shelter. The temperature dropped further. -50, -60. But your flesh is fragile, your homeostasis narrow. How do you survive? Ethan's vision blurred. His extremities were going numb, but his core stayed warm. The bracer was helping, but not much. This was real cold. Killing cold. He dropped to the floor and curled into a ball, minimizing surface area. Tucked his hands under his armpits, pulled his knees to his chest. Basic survival positioning taught in every cold weather safety course. Adaptation. He said through numb lips, we adapt our behavior, our posture. We survive until we can build fires, make shelter, create technology. That's the point. We don't have biological advantages. We make our own. The cold intensified. -70. His lungs burned with each breath, but he didn't die. His body fought. Shivering generated heat. His metabolism spiked. Blood flow redirected to vital organs. Every system went into survival mode, doing exactly what millions of years of evolution on a hostile world had taught it to do. Remarkable, one observer said. His core temperature remains stable. For now, another replied. Continue the test. The temperature reversed. Heat slammed into Ethan like a physical force, -70 to 40 Celsius in 10 seconds. His body couldn't adjust fast enough. He gasped, threw off his jacket, felt sweat pour from every pore. 50 degrees. 60, climbing fast. Death Valley, Ethan managed. Dash de loot. We survive there too. We survive everywhere. His vision swam. Heat exhaustion creeping in. But the bracer was feeding him data now, showing him what his body was doing. Vasodilation, wet production maximized. Every cooling mechanism firing at once. 70 degrees. 80. Ethan's hands found the crystal in his pocket. Lyra, little help here. This test is yours alone. But Ethan, her voice cut through the heat haze. Think, what do humans do in extreme heat that other species don't? He forced his brain to work through the fog. Humans, in deserts, persistence hunters. The thing that made humans unique, we sweat. Most mammals can't cool themselves efficiently through perspiration. Humans could. Humans evolved to run prey to exhaustion under the African sun, cooling themselves the whole way while their targets overheated. We're endurance specialists, Ethan said, loud enough for the observers to hear. Not the fastest, not the strongest, but we outlast everything. We keep going when others drop. That's our adaptation. The temperature hit 90 degrees Celsius. That water's near boiling point, Ethan screamed. But he didn't fall. His body was shutting down non-essential systems, redirecting everything to survival. His heart hammered. His lungs worked like bellows. Every cell fought to maintain function against impossible odds. And then the temperature stabilized. The crystalline being spoke. Sufficient data collected. Human durability confirmed. Fragile by Death World standards, but compensated by behavioral and technological adaptation. Trial 2 complete. The temperature returned to normal. 21 degrees. Survivable. Ethan collapsed to his knees, gasping. 2 trials passed. The being said, 5 remain. Rest period. 30 minutes. Then we test your capacity for cooperation under pressure. The floor opened beneath Ethan. He fell 10 feet onto something soft, a mat that cushioned his landing. The chamber above sealed shut. He lay in darkness, every muscle trembling, every nerve screaming. The crystal glowed. Ethan, Lyra said softly, you're doing better than I hoped. But the challenges will get harder. They're building towards something. Testing not just you, but the idea of humanity itself. What's the end game? Ethan whispered. Proving you're worth the risk I took. Proving death worlds don't just breed survivors. They breed allies who refuse to quit. Ethan closed his eyes. 30 minutes. Then 4 more trials. He had to be enough. For Lyra. For Earth. For the billions of people who didn't know their fate rested on some random guy who'd grabbed a flyer. I won't quit, he said. I know, Lyra replied. That's why I chose you. I underscore spotted, underscore an alien, underscore woman, underscore handing, underscore out, underscore looking, underscore for, underscore partner, underscore flyers, underscore no, underscore conditions. The 30 minutes passed in heartbeats. Ethan climbed back into the chamber to find it transformed again. No longer an arena. Now it resembled a command center. Holographic screens floating in the air showing star systems, trade routes, and species he'd never seen before. 5 other beings stood waiting. Trial 3, the crystalline being announced. Cooperation under pressure. You will work with representatives from 5 Union species to solve a cascading crisis. Communication will be difficult. Cultural differences will create conflict. The screens lit up, showing a colony in flames. Not Earth. Somewhere else. 7 different species lived there, and something had gone catastrophically wrong. Infrastructure failing. Populations panicking. Begin, the being said. The 5 aliens started talking at once in languages the bracer struggled to translate. One resembled a floating jellyfish pulsing with bioluminescence. Another looked like ambulatory stone. A third was pure energy contained in a geometric form. The fourth appeared almost human except for silver skin and eyes with no pupils. The fifth was the water creature Ethan had seen earlier. They were arguing, each pushing their own solution, each certain the others were wrong. Ethan watched the screens. 9 minutes left. The colony was dying. "Stop," he said. They ignored him. "Stop!" he shouted. The stone being turned. "You are Death Worlder, primitive. Why should we listen?" "Because you're all trying to solve the whole problem alone instead of dividing tasks." Ethan pointed at the screens. "Look, infrastructure failure, resource shortage, and population panic. 3 separate issues. We don't need one solution. We need 3 teams working simultaneously." The jellyfish pulsed. Redundant effort. No. Specialized effort. "You!" He pointed at the stone being. "Your species clearly understands structural engineering. Handle infrastructure. You." He turned to the energy form. "You manipulate power systems. Reroute resources. You two, the jellyfish and water creature. You're fluid, adaptable. Handle population movement and panic management. And you, the silver-skinned humanoid. You and I coordinate. Make sure everyone's working toward the same goal without stepping on each other." Silence. Then the stone being moved to an infrastructure console. Acceptable division of labor. The others followed. Tasks distributed. Communication streamlined through Ethan and his partner as central coordinators. 7 minutes left. They worked. Not smoothly. Cultural differences created friction. The jellyfish wanted to prioritize its own species in the colony. The stone being rebuilt infrastructure, with no regard for aesthetic or comfort. The energy form nearly crashed the power grid trying to optimize too aggressively. But Ethan kept them talking, kept them compromising, reminded them that failure meant everyone died, not just the species they cared about. 3 minutes left. Bees. Infrastructure stabilized at 60%. Resources redistributed but stretched thin. Population evacuations underway but incomplete. "Not enough time," the silver-skinned coordinator said. "We need to prioritize. Choose which districts to save." "No." Ethan's hands flew across holographic controls. "We automate the evacuations. Use the colony's own systems. We don't have to save everyone ourselves. We just have to give them the tools to save each other." He triggered emergency protocols in the colony's networks, automated shuttles, pre-programmed evacuation routes, shelter-in-place procedures for areas they couldn't reach in time. 60 seconds. The colony's survival probability climbed. 40%. 60. 75. The timer hit 0. Final survival rate, 82%. The simulation froze. "Trial 3 complete," the crystalline being said. "Cooperation achieved. Unusual approach. Delegated autonomy rather than centralized control. Survivors rate acceptable." The 5 alien participants turned to Ethan. The stone being inclined its massive head. "Well-coordinated Death Worlder." They vanished. Ethan stood alone again, breathing hard. 3 down, Lara's voice said through the crystal. "Huh, but Ethan, the observers are split. Some see your methods as proof of human potential. Others see chaos barely contained. The next trials will be decisive." What's next? Moral complexity, violence capacity, and final integration. The chamber shifted once more. Trial 4 was a hostage situation. Innocents held by extremists demanding concessions that would destabilize an entire sector. Every option led to casualties. Every choice carried weight. Ethan talked. He negotiated. He found the pressure points in the extremists' demands, the places where ideology met desperation. He offered alternatives, not perfect solutions, but paths forward that didn't require anyone to abandon their principles entirely. It took 47 minutes of intense dialogue, but the hostages walked free. Trial 5 tested violence capacity. They put him in a combat scenario against an opponent programmed to kill, gave him weapons, told him to survive. Ethan refused to kill. He dodged, defended. disarmed when possible, took damage rather than dealing lethal force. He ended the trial battered and bleeding, but with his opponent unconscious, not dead. Curious, one observer noted. Capable of violence but restrained. Inefficient yet moral. Not inefficient, Ethan countered, wiping blood from his mouth. Strategic. And humans have enough enemies already. We don't need to make more when we don't have to. The observers conferred. Then the crystalline being stood for the final time. Trial 6, Final Integration. You have passed 5 challenges by rejecting our premises, adapting our parameters, and demonstrating human capabilities we did not fully understand. Now we test the ultimate question. It gestured, and the chamber walls became transparent. Outside, Ethan saw Earth, saw the massive observer ships, saw billions of people going about their lives unaware how close they'd come to extinction. If we accept humanity into the Galactic Union, the being said, we accept responsibility for your actions. Your wars become our wars. Your growth becomes our concern. Your death world instincts will spread to peaceful species unused to such aggression. Why should we take this risk? Ethan looked at Earth, at Lyra watching from somewhere below, at the future hanging in balance. 'Cause you need us, he said quietly. The observers stirred. Explain, the crystalline being demanded. You've built a civilization on peaceful worlds, stable climates, abundant resources. Species that cooperate naturally because they never had to fight for survival. Ethan stepped toward the transparent walls. But the universe isn't peaceful. It's not stable. And someday you're going to face something that doesn't care about your treaties or your logic, something that only understands struggle. He turned to face them. When that day comes, you'll need people who know how to fight when everything's lost, who've survived impossible odds, who refuse to quit even when reason says they should. His voice strengthened. You need Deathworlders. Not because we're better, but because we're different. Because we've learned lessons your peaceful worlds never had to teach. And if your violence turns against us, the tentacled observer asked, then Lyra dies alongside us. That's the bond she created. That's the accountability. Ethan met each observer's gaze. But here's what I think. I think you're not afraid we'll attack you. I think you're afraid we'll change you. That our stubbornness and our refusal to accept limits will spread. That will make your perfect union messy and complicated and chaotic. Silence. And you know what? Ethan smiled. We probably will. Because that's what humans do. We push boundaries. We ask why not instead of accepting why. We turn impossible into inevitable. He pulled out the crystal, held it up so they could see. Lyra believed that made us worth saving, worth risking her life for. I'm not asking you to agree with her. I'm asking you to let us prove she was right. The observers conferred for exactly 3 minutes. Then the crystalline being spoke. The council has decided. By a vote of 4-3, humanity is accepted into the Galactic Union under conditional membership. Officer Lyra will serve as liaison and guarantor. Any violations of Union law will result in immediate review. But, it paused. Welcome to the stars, Deathworlders. Try not to break anything. The chamber erupted in light. Ethan felt himself transported, pulled through space back to Seattle, back to the underground chamber where this had all started. Lyra stood waiting, all forearms spread wide. You did it, she said, voice shaking with that triple harmony. You magnificent, stubborn Deathworlder. You did it. Ethan collapsed into her arms, exhausted beyond measure. Above them, the observer ships began broadcasting the same message to every human on Earth in every language simultaneously. Humanity, welcome to the galaxy. Prepare for integration. The stars are yours now. Try to keep up. Lyra laughed, a sound like crystal chimes. They have no idea what they've just unleashed. Ethan grinned despite his exhaustion. Death world instincts meet galactic civilization. This is going to be interesting. Interesting, Lyra agreed. That's one word for it. Outside, Earth kept spinning. Humanity kept surviving. And somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, the galaxy braced itself for what came next.